Good afternoon. Every time I go up, it goes back. We'll stay there. All right. Well, it's a pleasure to be here today, and I'm usually a wanderer as I talk, so I'll try not to trip over this cord this afternoon. What we're going to do over the next 15 or so minutes, we're going to spend a little bit of time examining a little bit where I'm at today and how I approach this, as I call it, a fight for one day, all children. And we're going to use my story to talk about it, but really for the next 15 minutes. The idea is not really to talk about me, but to have you reflect upon your journey, to use my story to think about your story, my journey to think about your journey as we together, and I emphasize that, as we together work on this fight for one day all children. As Reggie said, I currently am the superintendent of the Phoenix Union High School District. And Phoenix Union, as you can see above me here, we being about 3,000 educators, from classified employees to teaching staff to administrators, we serve a population of 28,000 students. And if you know, depending on where you teach here in the Valley, you know that Phoenix Union High School District is the umbrella high school district for 13 elementary school districts that feed into us. And so altogether, we make up a pipeline of about 150,000 students. We in Phoenix Union, because we have 30,000 students roughly, kids who come from 220 square miles, 13 elementary school districts, over 100 4-8, 5-8, K-8, 6-8, and 7-8 schools. Our kids come at all different levels and with all different backgrounds. And so in order for us to meet the needs of that population, we offer our students a portfolio of schools. And what happens in most large urban systems across the country when it comes to high school, the high schools offer large, overcrowded, comprehensive campuses, and then a couple small alternative high schools. Phoenix Union is different. We're unique, and not that we're the only district in the country, but we believe that it's our responsibility and it's our opportunity to offer our kids comprehensive campuses where we have a wide variety of clubs and sports and arts and world languages and career and technical ed programs. But we also have a variety of small specialty schools. We have Bioscience High School downtown, Phoenix Coding Academy, Franklin Police and Fire High School. You heard Representative Boulding mention that we have the only Montessori high school in the state of Arizona. So we believe it's our, again, responsibility and opportunity to offer our kids multiple school settings. Not every kid learns in large schools, not every kid learns in small schools. We are proud of these schools, but we are most proud of our students. As I said, we have 28,000 students, and we believe, and I know you would not be in this room as a core member or an educator, would not believe the same thing I'm about to say, which is that our diversity is our greatest strength. Phoenix Union, with 28,000 students, almost 85% of our students live at or below the federal poverty line. Almost 82% of our students are Latino. You heard from Paul Luna this morning. I wasn't here, but you know Paul's passion for education, Paul's passion for the Latino community, and he explains, of course, and I'm sure he did this morning, the future of Arizona, in large part, is within our Latino communities, with a growing demographic that is shifting quickly. Phoenix Union, in our district, we have 74 languages spoken, and 55% of our students speak a language other than English at home. But when we look at that diversity, we don't see a deficit model, right? We don't view our kids from a deficit. What we know in the future of this country, what we know in terms of the skill set and the characteristics that companies are looking for and that our country needs, is we are looking for adults who are resilient, who collaborate, who are social, who problem solve, who have grit. We are looking for people that are bilingual and bicultural and biliterate. And when you look at our student body, we believe that our kids have all the skill set necessary to thrive someday in the economy. Now, unfortunately, many people look at our kids and that's not what they see. Right? Many people look at rural communities in Arizona, urban communities in Arizona, and also impoverished communities, not just in this state, but across the country. And what they see is they see hunger, and they see crime, and they see poverty. They see struggle. And it's so important that for us as educators today, whether we are in urban settings or in rural settings, whether we work with a refugee population or a Latino population, whatever population we work with, it is extremely important that when the world looks at our communities and they see poverty, we have to see potential. When they look in our communities and they see struggle and they see hunger, we have to see hope. And where they see crime and crisis, we have to see a generation of kids who can be ready for college and career. And it's important that each and every one of us as educators knows the stories of our kids, that we can tell, whether it's at the Capitol. We'll talk a little bit here in a moment about where I think this real fight for one day occurs, and we'll spend a little bit of time talking about the Capitol, near and dear to Representative Boulding. But it's important that each and every one of us can tell stories of success of kids that we have taught, stories of success of kids that have come through our communities. And we often share these 4 stories as a reminder that not only can our kids be successful, but our kids can thrive and excel, not only in school, but out of school. And I'll just quickly give you a glimpse into the success of these 4 students. These are Phoenix Union recent alumni. We have plenty other stories, but we'll start with these 4 today. Frank is here in the top left. And Frank grew up in extreme poverty in the foster care system and spent his entire life abused. Ended up at one of our high schools, actually Camelback High School. I had the opportunity to work with Frank. Frank ultimately received a full ride scholarship to ASU. While he was there, he got so committed and actually angry about the foster care system and was really anxious about getting involved in leadership at ASU. And so he had a crazy dream to run and become the youngest ever student body president in ASU's history. And he ran and he won. And at the end of his first term, he decided to try to become the first student body president to ever win 2 terms. And he won. And Frank since has been flown across the country, won national awards for his advocacy within foster youth and equity issues. And Frank today has done internships with many legislators and is applying to graduate schools on the East Coast. Elijah, yeah, every story is amazing. Elijah is a student that grew up in South Phoenix, actually went to our law magnet high school, fell in love with the law world. Although some people say we have enough attorneys around, we need great ones like Elijah. And so Elijah went through our law program, graduated from high school a year early, went to ASU, finished at ASU in 2.5 years, graduated at the age of 19, and is now in law school, his first year of law school on the East Coast. So we're proud of Elijah. Helena's story is really simple to tell. Helena is like many kids who grow up across this country saying that when I graduate from high school, I want to get accepted to Harvard and Yale and Princeton and Stanford and have my choice of where to go. And that's exactly what happened to Helena last year. Helena applied to most Ivy League schools, and Stanford got accepted to all of them, and had the difficult the difficult choice, actually flew all across the country to be recruited, and is now a freshman at Stanford University, already doing cancer research, and she is a remarkable young lady. And then finally, Josh. Josh grew up on the west side, actually grew up in the Maryvale, Alhambra. You saw some Isaac School District students here today. So Josh grew up in that neighborhood. And he had a passion to do something bigger and better for his family. Grew up in a very poor Latino household. Mom and dad worked 2 to 3 jobs. And so what he did after school to stay away from drugs and gangs in that community, he took public transportation every day to the public library to use a public computer, and sat down at the computer every day for only the hour that you get at the public library on the computer system to teach himself how to code, to teach himself how to blog, and to teach himself how to build websites. And at the young age of 16, had already built websites and blogs and began to sell them online. Josh got a passion for entrepreneurship and for business, got serious about school, eventually became the valedictorian of Alhambra High School, went to Barrett the Honor College on a full-ride scholarship. Still today is the fastest ever graduate in the history of Barrett the Honor College at less than 2 years. Josh tells stories of rushing in between classes to his dorm room to close six-figure deals on his way back to class. The first time that I met Josh just happened to be on his 21st birthday. That wasn't why we were meeting, but it happened to be his 21st birthday. It made dinner more fun. And as he pulled up to the restaurant, his door opened to his Ferrari, and out came his alligator shoes. And so that was my introduction to Josh. Josh has gone on to sell, build, buy companies all throughout the world, has employees in over 20 countries throughout the world, and he's 24 years old. He's 24 years old. So, another great success story. We have, he makes me feel like an underachiever, by the way. What's great about Josh, too, so I told the door alligator shoes story. What's great about Josh is that he and his girlfriend is also a Phoenix Union alumni. They went to high school together. She runs the finance, she's a certified accountant, and she runs the business. And she graduated from college in 3 years. And what's great about Josh and Brenda is that they've already started a foundation, and they're already giving back to their community. And so although they have been very fortunate financially, they are also great people. So we tell these stories just as reminders again, that not only can our kids be successful, but they can thrive, but we also tell these stories because it is a reminder how true this statement is, which is that education interrupts poverty. Most pieces of research will tell you that it is virtually the only thing that interrupts poverty. We know that every once in a while, a kid is born with an arm that can throw 95 miles an hour, a girl's born with a voice that puts her on the top of the charts. But for most kids today, the only way to interrupt poverty is through education. And that's why each and every one of us who's in a classroom every day, whether we're a campus leader, a community leader, that's why we have to fight every day for education, and that's why it is not acceptable to stop at all or slow down in this fight for one day all children. And so what I want to do is I want to end by telling you where and how I think this fight really occurs, because as you sit there today, most of you in a classroom teaching kids, that's one place to really engage in this fight for our kids, but that's not the only place. And so I want to share with you where I think, and for me, where I spend my time advocating for this idea that one day all children should have the opportunity to achieve and attain an excellent education. So first and foremost, the work that you're doing today in the classrooms, right, the fight begins on the campus. That this is ground zero, this is the battleground of education, and that we have to come to work every single day. It does not matter what grade level, it does not matter what school, what district, doesn't matter what you teach or what job you have to come every day knowing that the fight really starts in the classroom. The passion that we have for our kids, the commitment to extremely high expectations for every kid, a belief system that every single student in your classroom, even the ones that probably drive you crazy day to day, that every kid in your classroom has the right and the potential to be successful. And that has to happen in classrooms, on auditorium stages, and on football fields and in basketball gyms, right? That fight happens every day. It happens in libraries and in tutoring centers. We can't attain one day if we're not first and foremost doing the right thing in our classrooms and in our campuses. But that's not enough. We have to do more than that. This fight for one day also for me occurs in the community. It is extremely important that outside of the bells and walls of our campuses, we are engaged in the community. And engaged, for me, means with nonprofits and in businesses and in corporations and in organizations that I believe are really pushing our kids closer to this idea of one day. And so, as Reggie alluded to earlier, I serve on boards and councils, again, for companies that I think are really moving the needle. For us, at the same time, a few years ago, actually 8 years ago, my wife and I launched a nonprofit. So I'll just spend a little bit of time talking about that. You heard Reggie said my wife's a farmer. My wife and I, perhaps a little unique to TFA. We often say that TFA is one of the most successful dating services in town. But my wife and I happened to join together. We were at our undergraduate at the University of Washington, and in a story much too long to tell today, we found ourselves applying to TFA 16 years ago. And so my wife and I, Kendra Krause, who some of you heard from earlier today, she sat on a panel. She works at Brophy College Preparatory, as well as another TFA alum, John Taylor. We started a nonprofit that is designed still to this day, 8 years later, to take high potential low-income youth, starting in the freshman year, and to sponsor them all the way through college graduation. And so we've been sponsoring kids. We take about 4 to 5 kids a year, because over 8 years, that's a lot of kids to sponsor. And we track our kids. We act, as we tell people very simply, like the upper middle class parents that every single one of these kids deserves. So we pay for their band fees and have flown kids to Spain and El Salvador and pay for bus passes and college tuition. We take care of ACT prep courses. We even fly kids if their parents are unable to. Even we'll fly kids to their dorms, go to the parent orientation, move them in, buy their first sheets. Some of our kids, many of our kids, have told us when we brought them to the dorms that it'll be the first bed they've ever slept on that they could call their own in college. So we've been doing this for 8 years. It's simply called Sponsors for Scholars because the idea is to find sponsors for scholars and follow them for 8 years. And we will have our first graduates this year. We'll have 4 graduates from college. These are kids who come from extremely low-income families, who are the first in their college, in their house, not only to graduate from college, but to graduate from high school. And so our kids will graduate this year from ASU, Santa Clara, Creighton, and Notre Dame, all over the next couple of months. So I believe, thank you. But again, tell that story just to talk about like the work happens in the community too. That it's extremely important that we put in our time, our talent, our treasure into the school day, but we also have to do work outside schools if we're really going to make this a reality for all kids. I also believe that there's work that happens at the Capitol. So on the campus, in the classroom, in the community, but also at the Capitol. Reggie knows this really, really well. But the reality today is that there still exists a very big achievement gap in this country. And there exists a learning gap. But the reality is, and Robert Putnam, who wrote a great book called Our Kids, An American Dream in Crisis, reminds us that really at the core of the achievement gap problem is really an opportunity gap. It's really an opportunity gap. That kids in low-income communities today just don't have the opportunities that kids in suburban America have today. That kids in our communities, our kids, that's why he calls it our kids, we have to own and love and believe in every single kid. That it is not okay that some kids in this country have access to club sports and others don't. That some have access to the right level of health care and others don't. That some can join clubs, some get tutoring, and others don't. It's not okay that our kids in this country don't have the same opportunity. And that opportunity gap, in many ways, is a resource problem, and most of the resources that come into our communities today happen and come from decisions that are made down at the Capitol. And so it is extremely important that all of us, when you have time, also engage in what happens down at the legislature. It is extremely important that we put our time and our talent and our treasure, which sometimes means going door to door knocking for a candidate. It might mean writing a check for something or someone that we believe in. It might mean making phone calls and influencing decisions that happen downtown, but the policies and the legislation that is adopted or passes downtown has a major and direct impact on the lives of our kids. And we have to play a role. Again, not just in our campuses, not just in the community, but we have to play our role to elect people like Representative Golding and help others downtown understand why it is extremely important that people invest in our kids. And then, finally, we talked about campus, we talked about community, we talked about capital, and I'm going to give you one more C that I think is really important as we fight for equity and excellence for all kids, and that's character. You talked a little bit earlier about this divisive world that we live in right now and the political rhetoric that we see, and I'm not going to get into a talk about that. But the reality today is this, that for some reason, people today believe that the way to fight evil is with evil. To fight slander is with more slander. And we forget that that is not true. If you go back thousands of years, whether we're talking Chinese proverbs, to Christian scriptures, to Cherokee stories, to quotes from civil rights leaders and leaders today, there's one thing that's really common. And that is simply that it really is the good that drives out the bad. It's not bad that drives out bad. One of my favorite stories, and many of you have heard this, is the Two Wolves story. That's an old Cherokee Indian story where a grandfather is sitting down with his grandson. And he says to the grandson that there is a great battle that exists inside each and every one of us. And it's a battle of two wolves. And the two wolves represent good and evil. And he goes on to talk about what is evil. It's slander, it's malice, it's ego, it's self-ambition, it's deceit. And what's good, right? It's peaceful, it's honorable, it's just, it's loving, it's kind, it's generous. And the grandson turns to his grandfather and says, well, which wolf wins? And the grandfather simply says, the one in which we feed. And so as you advocate for kids in the community, what you tweet, what you post, what you share, what you say, what you do matters. If you have the right level of integrity and the right character as you advocate for kids, people will listen. Your influence will be even more influential, will be even louder if you live a way in which really lifts up the good versus tears down the bad. And this is probably one of my favorite quotes from anybody at any time in any era, from Martin Luther King Jr. And the quote just simply says, and it's a great reminder, that darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. And that hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. So I thought it was really important to end with that character piece. It's so important that we model, right, the characteristics that we want our kids to have, that we want our legislators to behave or to embody themselves. If we're going to have great influence, if we're going to have a great voice, if we're going to someday live out this dream, that all kids, one day, all kids, it starts with us, not only on the campus, not only in the community, but also at the Capitol. So thank you so much for your time today. And I'll turn it back to you.